It begins in silence. The shift happens so gradually that nobody sees it coming. You're a small child, maybe 6 or 7, watching an adult in your life crumble. Perhaps they're struggling with substances. Perhaps rage consumes them. Or maybe there's just an empty void where presence should be. Something fundamental shifts inside you without conscious thought. Someone has to keep this family from falling apart. I guess it has to be me. This is where childhood ends, not in body but in spirit. The laughter comes easier now, but it's strategic. Tears are swallowed. You develop a sixth sense for emotional weather patterns. You transform into the household's emotional regulator. You become a miniature adult before your brain has the capacity to handle it. And society celebrates this transformation. Look how grown up you are. So dependable. So capable. But nobody thinks to wonder, what's being sacrificed here? This is the silent mourning of those forced into premature adulthood. Today, we're exploring the psychology behind this experience, because these patterns don't simply evaporate when you turn 18. They infiltrate your relationships, your career, your self-concept. Without understanding the roots, you'll find yourself trapped in survival mechanisms that once protected you, but now suffocate who you could become. Here's what's actually occurring beneath the surface. When kids must emotionally stabilize adults rather than receiving that support themselves, psychologists identify this as parentification. The child transforms into caretaker, mediator, counselor, guardian. This goes beyond unhealthy. It fundamentally alters brain development. When a young person repeatedly manages emotional regulation, their own feelings or everyone else's, it establishes something called hypervigilance. Your nervous system never rests. You're perpetually monitoring for threats. Relationships feel fragile. You absorb a terrible lesson. Love must be earned through service. If I maintain the peace, maybe I'll be kept safe. My needs are burdensome. Theirs are critical. So you vanish, not in body, but in essence. In your place emerges a carefully constructed persona that excels at performing. You become the compliant child, the silent overachiever, the friend everyone vents to, the person who never requires anything. This identity becomes so convincing that even you believe it's genuine. Yet underneath, something bleeds. A persistent ache exists because the young soul you suppressed never actually disappeared. They're still there, silently pleading, "Why wasn't I protected?" As the years pass, the manifestations grow more intricate. You might develop extreme self-reliance, refusing assistance, maintaining distance, never fully trusting intimacy. Moments of happiness might feel hollow because joy seems foreign, undeserved, even threatening. Rest becomes impossible because productivity is your only proof of worthiness. Most devastating of all, you might not recognize you're still operating in crisis mode. When chaos was normalized during your formative years, your nervous system calibrates to turmoil as normal. Calm feels wrong. Tranquility breeds suspicion. Love feels like borrowed time you'll eventually have to repay. This is the psychological landscape of premature maturation. It transcends simple melancholy. It's a layered trauma that reconstructs your worldview and, critically, your self-perception. You might wonder, why would any child volunteer for this role? Because children will sacrifice anything to maintain connection, even themselves. The decision isn't deliberate. It's survival biology. Without safety, the child trades authenticity for proximity. This isn't fragility. It's adaptive brilliance. It's instinct doing what instinct does. The real tragedy. What protected you then restricts you now. Countless adults walk through life as high-functioning individuals, while deeply wounded inner children dictate their choices. We overperform to secure affection. We suppress our voices to prevent rejection. We nurture everyone while secretly hoping someone might notice we're drowning. That recurring fantasy, that someone will finally see through your strength and allow you to collapse into their arms, that's not your adult self yearning. That's the child who never experienced childhood. The initial step isn't repair, it's recognition. Until you acknowledge what truly happened, you'll continue dismissing your experience. It could have been worse. Others suffered more. I'm basically fine. But fine is just another mask. And somewhere deep down, you already know this. What becomes of these children in adulthood? They evolve into people who never feel secure, even in peaceful spaces. They become partners who distrust tenderness. They become perpetual givers who cannot receive. They become individuals who apologize for emotions, recoil from praise, and mistake burnout for achievement. This is the price of accelerated growing up. When your early years trained you to be resilient at the cost of vulnerability, to be silent instead of truthful, to repair others while your own cracks spread. What kind of adulthood awaits you? You inherit an existence where you're forever holding your breath, waiting for permission to finally break down. But here's the reality. Nobody's arriving to save the child you buried. You must be the one to reach back and take their hand. You must speak the words nobody else offered. You didn't deserve that. You were just a kid. You're allowed to rest now. This is where genuine shadow work begins. Not performing repair, not pretending everything's resolved, not covering wounds with hollow optimism, but turning toward those abandoned fragments and declaring, I see you, I hear you, I'm staying. This is the reparative journey. And it's excruciating because it requires feeling the grief you never had space to feel. It demands sitting with fury, sorrow, unmet longings, crying over celebrations nobody attended, grieving the innocence lost while shielding people who should have shielded you. But that grief? It's not weakness. It's evidence of healing. Because what was frozen is finally thawing. Consider how these survival patterns manifest in grown-up life, quietly, painfully, often invisibly. You might serve as emotional support for all your friends while remaining a mystery to them. You might be celebrated for your self-sufficiency while secretly terrified of depending on anyone. You might enter relationships where you overfunction, constantly fixing, managing, over-explaining, then wonder why resentment builds. You might struggle with boundaries because declining requests still registers as abandonment. These aren't inherent personality traits. They're adaptive responses, learned, reinforced, and crucially, reversible. But only when you stop glorifying your resilience and begin respecting your injuries. One transformative practice. Ask your inner child, what did I need then that nobody provided? You might hear responses like, I needed to hear it wasn't my responsibility. I needed someone to check on me. I needed space to play, rest, laugh without constant vigilance. Gradually, gently, you start offering those things to yourself. Not to undo history, but to stop perpetuating it. This is how you cease seeking parental figures in romantic partners. This is how you distinguish between anxiety and genuine intuition. This is how you stop fleeing from who you were and who you're becoming. Jung observed, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Yet, shadow work requires confrontation. All of it. The neglected parts, the ashamed pieces, the frightened child, the angry survivor. Because healing isn't transformation into someone else. It's remembering who you were before the world assigned you a role. If you're someone who matured too quickly, understand this. Your early wisdom was never the issue. The issue was the absence of choice. But now you have agency. You can choose gentleness. You can choose rest. You can choose to stop regulating everyone's emotional climate and start honoring your own inner weather. And no, transformation won't happen instantly. Some days you'll feel childlike again. Perfect. That's exactly the point. Welcome that child home. Let them weep. Let them play. Let them finally be witnessed. Because you're not damaged. You're integrating. Perhaps for the first time, you're actually growing up properly. Not through pressure or fear, but through authenticity. You never experienced childhood, but you still have a future. And this time, you're the author.